And whoops, let me do that again. And action.
Hello. Oh, I totally did not shave if you're actually watching the visual for this, so you're welcome.
So tune into YouTube or watch us on Spotify to see the pit hair. That's usually why I intentionally wear shirts with sleeves, because sometimes I'm just not feeling up to it.
Yeah, shaving is overrated.
It really is.
Blech. Like, who told me as a woman I don't need to have body hair? You got me messed up.
Yeah, I do feel like sometimes I really like just being smooth, because I feel gross when I'm not. But I'm like, is that just because of that's what society told me to feel?
Now, I will say, oh, God, TMI. How do we start the show like this?
That's fine.
I will say, TMI, I do get a Brazilian, though, just because I am, like, cousin
I've been thinking
so I have to
wanting
get
to
it.
get one.
Come to my lady.
I've never, like, gotten one before. I always just shave vigorously.
So my skin is so sensitive, I have to get a wax, and I go once a month. Yeah.
I got, like... it's gotten to a point where it's like I shave and I'm like, this is just gonna be irritated for a whole day.
Exactly.
So stupid.
And then with mine, like, I'll look away and look back and it's back already if I try shaving on my own. So I'm like, let's just have somebody rip this straight out of the source. Anywho,
Hell yeah.
welcome
To Blood Sisters, the podcast where we sit in a basement in Wisconsin and talk about creepy stuff. I'm one half of Blood Sisters, Christina Mata, joined by my other half, Na Tasha Cobb.
Our better half. Haha, take that, Bob. Hey, welcome back, y'all. How's everybody doing out there? Good.
It's been a hell of a week.
Yeah. What'd you do?
Thanksgiving.
Oh, it was Thanksgiving.
It was Thanksgiving last week.
Yeah.
I guess that was a thing.
I'm kind of beefing with my family, so I didn't really do much.
Oh, yeah. No, I get that for sure.
We're all at that age where it's like either you decide I can accept my family, all their flaws and all the trauma they cause me, and just love them because that's what I'm told I have to do, or I'm just going to say screw you guys and just isolate myself. I'm on that end of it right now.
You hang out with your chosen family.
Exactly.
Me.
Yes. It's so important that we create our own family at this age. So
we should. Anyway, yeah, we can talk about plans and hanging out. Today, we are going to talk about one asshole of a dude named Samuel Little. Samuel Little has been identified by, I believe, the FBI as the most prolific serial killer in the U.S.
And you know what's interesting about Samuel? Spoiler alert, he is black. I don't hear a lot about Samuel. For him to be the most prolific in the States, he does not come up with the Dahmers or the BTK, the what's the other guy's name? Oh, I can't think of his name.
Ted Bundy?
Yeah, Bundy's one of. Oh, yeah, he was cute. Yeah. So it's like he's not listed in these like most infamous ones, and I wonder why that is.
I honestly think like a lot of it is like Dahmer was so gruesome in the stuff that he did. Ted Bundy had the personality thing where he could like get himself into any room that he wanted to be in. You know, I don't know. I feel like Sam Little like killed a lot of people.
A lot.
He kind of had like the same process, and he just kind of like.
So you saying his murders were not sexy enough?
Right. I think a lot of people like get attracted to like certain things about serial killers, like what they do, either like the most gruesome things or like the hot people, right? They don't think about, oh, this person like killed more people, but it wasn't as
sexy.
Yeah.
But he was super hot when he was younger. Like the first like.
Did you see those pictures with his mugshots throughout the years?
Ooh, his face changed drastically, guys.
Yeah,
but like
it really
his first
out.
mugshot when he was like 16, I was like, oh, hubba. All right. Anyway.
Hubba.
But I think we can finally get back on track. Sam Little was born Samuel McDowell on June 7th, 1940. No surprise here. I'm always going to mention it. He is a Gemini. Gross. Unless you're a listener, one of our fans, and you're a Gemini, I love you so much, Geminis.
You're so the best.
So the best. He was born in Reynolds, Georgia, to a 16-year-old prostitute, Bessie Mae Little, and 19-year-old Paul McDowell. Now, they actually had a census from the year of his mother that she gave birth to him, and it says she worked as a maid. But then did you see somewhere else that she was a prostitute too?
I did not.
Okay.
I got that census thing about the maid also. So who knows
And
what
it
actually happened there.
right. They also reported that she gave birth to him while she was in jail.
Yes, while he was in jail. Absolutely. He had also claimed later in life that as a youngin, she left him on the side of the road.
I seen that.
And
Yeah.
somehow, I don't know what happened exactly, what transpired, but he claimed that he was left on the side of the road. He was like not even a toddler yet, and then ended up getting moved to Lorain, Ohio to get raised by his grandmother.
Yes. At this time, so it's not really clear what his relationship was with his father. I couldn't find a lot of information on his father. And clearly he had a really bad relationship with his mother as well. So right off the bat, we're starting off with someone who did not get a lot of nurturing love, although I'm sure his grandmother tried as best as she could.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really didn't get a lot about the grandmother, how she tried to raise him, like what his home life was like.
Right.
I feel like that just gets kind of skipped over. There was a documentary called Confronting a Serial Killer that I wanted to watch. Apparently this journalist, Jillian Lauren. I'm sorry if I messed up her name, but
the one who fell in love with him, I think.
She like she like made a whole movie. It came out in 2021 and you still have to like pay to watch it. It's like I tried to find it. I tried to find it just to stream it, and it was like $5 to buy it, and I was like, $5, psh, I'll find enough without you.
Right.
It's fine. So maybe there's more in there. I feel like she got a lot out of him.
Yeah.
So
I guess we'll have to start our Patreon. You guys can donate $5 and we can watch the movie.
And you could also do like suggestions, like, oh, I really want to hear you guys do a take on this person.
Yeah, for sure. Now, he wasn't the best in school. He had discipline and achievement issues. And at the age of 13, Christina, you mentioned this earlier, not on the show, but behind the scenes, he went to the reformatory school for stealing in 1954.
Yep. Apparently it was for stealing a bike, and he ended up going to reformatory school for a few years, and apparently while he was in reformatory school he got in trouble a ton there too.
Now what I found interesting is that he recounted having sexual fantasies about strangling women as a child. Did you see that?
Yes. So his attraction to women's necks started as early as him being 5 or 6 years old.
Kindergarten.
And he was kindergarten. Okay. Yeah. And he said he knew as soon as he saw his teacher, like she touched her neck in class or something, and it just like awoken something in him. Right. And he knew from then on, like he just had an attraction to necks and throats.
So then, of course, little Sammy moves on as a teenager, and he starts to collect true crime magazines that were showing women being choked. Somehow this man was able to be married before.
He was?
Yeah, I see he was married, and then outside of that, he had 2 long-term relationships. They never mentioned these women or how long it lasted, but I heard that. And I was like, wait, what?
So I got some info on one of the, well, maybe not a girlfriend. It was like a long-term mother figure.
Oh.
But that's a little down the road. We can wait for that one.
Sounds good.
What, who did he get married to? What the heck?
We got to find her.
Oh.
I also was super sleepy, so to be fair, I was like, oh, he was married. Cool. And I didn't really go down that rabbit hole.
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
Now, in 1956, at the age of 16, he was convicted of breaking and entering into a property in Omaha, Nebraska. And then he was held in an institution for juvenile offenders. So again, back to his childhood, like throughout his teen years, he is just in and out of jail. In the late 60s, he moved to Florida to live with his mother and began working as a cemetery worker and ambulance attendant.
And that just blows my mind. I'm like, your mother abandoned you. Somehow she resurfaces and while you're in like your 20s, and then you decide to up and leave and go live with her. I'm like, what was he thinking? He just wanted to change, or maybe he just wanted to start his traveling life, because he traveled around a lot. He just kind of jumped from town to town, stealing, shoplifting, selling goods, and
driving under the influence.
Right. His
armed robbery.
His car was a nasty thing, apparently.
Right.
I guess one witness had said that his car actually had like mice in it.
Yeah.
Because it had stolen goods, dead bodies from time to time. Like he just used it for everything. He lived in it probably on some days. You're like, who knows?
Yeah. And so he was arrested in 8 states for various crimes now at this point. And by 1975, he had been arrested 26 times in 11 states.
Yeah, he dodged the law so many times too. Like he managed to not get caught so much.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Apparently when he moved to Florida was when he committed his first murder.
Mm-hmm.
His first victim would be Mary Brosley. This was in 1970, so he would have been about 30 at this time, and Mary was 33. He drove her to a secluded area near the Everglades, strangled her to death, and buried her in a shallow grave. And so I don't know what happened, if like after this one he just like started going crazy
Right.
and just like nonstop just killing so many people. He was just on a roll for so long, and he avoided getting caught because of the victims that he targeted. He targeted women who were sex workers, who might have been addicted to drugs, people who he said, in his words, might not be immediately missed.
Yeah,
So.
the man was smart. He also, something that's worth mentioning, that over time he was arrested almost 100 times and only spent a total of 10 years behind bars. So this man is doing all these crimes, not getting caught for murder, arrested almost 100 times, and in total only spent almost 10 years in total. And that's since he was like 16 or how old he was when he first got arrested.
Yeah. In 1972, he met someone while he was in prison. I don't know how they met in prison. This was a woman, but apparently they met while they were serving time. And her name was Aurelia Dorsey, and she went by Jean. She was about 30 years older than him. Apparently, she was his partner in crime from 1972 to about 1988 when she died of a brain hemorrhage.
88, good year.
Good year. We were born. So she died and then we were born. What is that?
God. Yeah, that
Okay.
was sick. Oh, she self-centered much, Tasha? Damn. Oh my God.
I'm just saying, like, lost her, gained us. That's great.
I'm sorry. Keep going.
I noticed that too. A lot of the times I always relate things back to myself, and I'm like,
wow. You self-centered asshole. It's like, gee, this woman died in that year, and you're like, oh my God, I was born.
look at me.
Anyway, back to this poor woman.
So she would be the shoplifter and he was the driver. So that's how they kind of operated for many years. She would kind of get that. She was an older lady. She was like in her 60s at this point. So she was just like this innocent little lady. She'd walk into a store, shoplift some stuff. He'd drive and then they'd sell it. And he would go out at night looking for women, murdering, and apparently she had no idea for that long.
Right.
He claims she didn't know. He said she had no idea. So she would be like in the motel for the night, and he'd be like, I'm gonna go out. He knew that she was like
knew.
He said she knew that he was out like getting women or whatever, but apparently she didn't know to the extent of what he was doing. But right, who knows? Who knows? Only she knows. And
I'm saying she knew.
Yeah, I find it very hard to believe that you had some type of a relationship with this person for like 16 years at that point, and you didn't know that he was killing people. Yeah,
kind of hard to believe. So that was during 1988.
She died in 1988.
Okay. Because I didn't know about this woman.
They
Again,
were
I was super
scheming
sleepy.
from 1972 to 1988 together.
Okay. So, I mean, that's the bulk of when he committed. Most of his, like, she had to know.
Like, how would she not know?
Yeah,
How?
she knew. He did tell a story. Did you want to tell the story about when he almost got caught?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So, Samuel Little shared this story. I saw an interview where he was talking about this, and he is so proud of how he managed to escape getting caught. So he had just finished finished murdering someone, and her dead body was in the back of his car. Right after he got done murdering her, a cop pulls up behind him and was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" It's just like in a secluded area. His MO was very much, well, we can talk about that in a little bit, but he had this dead body in the back of his car. He gets out. He's pretending that he's like getting his pants back on. He just adjusting his fly, and he's like, "Oh, hey, I'm so sorry. I just got done, having relations with my wife." And
Relations.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm guessing he probably tried to say some shit like that.
It's so romantic.
And, relations. And the cop takes his flashlight, looks in the back of the car, sees the woman. Even Sam, he like imitated it. He was like, "She's just laying there like," and he's like, "I gotta distract him before he takes a second look." So he started talking to the cop, and finally the cop was just like, "Well, get out of here."
Yep. And if you're wondering how this man was able to get away with it so long, I mean, keep in mind, the cops were not using DNA really until the mid 90s. So even though he's raping a lot of these women, like, they were not able to tie it to him so easily.
Yeah. He was obsessed with just fucking them and then killing them.
Yeah.
And that's how he would say it. Yeah.
Yeah. He would always choose his victims depending on how attractive their neck was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he never used, he prided himself. He prode himself.
Prided.
I like prode. He prode himself on on never using a gun or a belt because he preferred his hands. He did actually drown 2 victims, but this man would actually allow them sometimes to catch their breath so they could start breathing again, just to then eventually end up choking the life out of them. It was hard for them to know that this was strangulation too, because of the manner in which that he choked them. They didn't have broken or fractured bones in their throats. So on some of their deaths, it was misclassified in the autopsy reports as drug overdoses or even natural deaths. Mm-hmm. Now, what I found interesting, they said natural death. A lot of his victims were young. So how were these natural deaths? But They also were addicted to drugs. So I can understand some of them. I shouldn't say addicted. They were living that fast lifestyle, which tends to come with drug use.
Sure.
So that one I could understand, but the natural causes, I don't know.
A lot of the cases were identified as NHI, which stands for no humans involved. So a lot of cases were not investigated as much as they should have been, just because they were people that no one was necessarily looking for.
Missing. Yeah. So the man was he was really, really smart at what he did. And once he found out how good he could do it and evade the cops, he took off. And I mean, this man started killing women in high numbers. He lacked the ability. What I see interesting is that, so they always said that he had like a photographic memory, and we'll talk about that a little bit down the line. But then they said he lacked the ability to accurately judge time and distance. So he would just like, I'm assuming he just black out during these like this murder rampage and like really didn't have a sense of time, because he's just like, I'm just having fun with my old lady friend.
Sure. Yeah, we're just traveling, scheming, getting shit done. I don't know. Yeah. It's bullshit. There's one woman named Lori Barros who was a sex worker who survived. Mm-hmm. And it kind of gives us a good window into like his MO and what he did. So he quite literally just yanked her off the street. He didn't even try to like take her out. Apparently earlier on he would like take them out. He would take them
for
out
dinner.
To eat.
Yeah.
And it's thought, I think it was like some psychologist or something thinks that it was kind of like a foreplay for him, like watching them eat and drink and seeing their throat. And then he would just take them and kill them. He was even able to identify the contents of one victim's stomach.
Yeah, it was like coffee and what else did she have? Yeah.
And he knew exactly what was in there. He took her out. This woman, I don't know if this was later down the road. This was 1984, so this would have been well, he's doing it for a while. Mm-hmm, maybe he's completely stopped like taking him out. He for this particular victim, he just grabbed her off the street, threw her in his car, and they just started like driving. So she was trying to play it off like she wasn't scared. Right. You know, and eventually he stopped the car. He pulls her in the back, ties up her hands, and starts strangulating. Wow. Strangling her. Starts strangling her. And she would go in and out of consciousness. At one point when she came to, he said to her, swallow. I like it when you swallow. And he liked
I'm sorry,
feeling
I got mad.
her neck swallow as he was holding it.
Separate yourself from the podcast, Tasha. All right, keep going.
Yeah. So eventually he dropped her off in like some alleyway and she played dead for 30 minutes thinking he's going to come back for me or something.
Right.
And she was talking about like the shame she felt in that moment, and she thought that it was her fault because of the field that she had gotten into as a sex worker, and she just felt so much like shame. And even someone had driven past her, saw her, and like looked like they were scared of her because she was like a sex worker, and drove away, and she just felt horrible.
At that time too, I mean, a lot of serial killers had the common thing where they knew exactly who to target. If they targeted sex workers, it would, and brown sex workers, that wasn't him necessarily, he targeted anybody, but at that time if they were targeting brown sex workers, it was like easy because it's like, oh yeah, nobody's going to be actually looking for these people, and the cops are not going to care to investigate this. This man, like I said, we said earlier, always chose strangulation because he was obsessed with the necks. So you're probably wondering like, well, why didn't he just cut him? Like it would have been quicker. He hated blood.
He didn't like blood.
He hated blood. I'm okay with murdering, but ew, blood grosses me out.
Yeah. Even during an interview, he was asked like, did you ever shoot any of these girls? He's like, shoot them? Yeah, like with a gun. He goes, I'm not gonna shoot no girls. Or what did he say? He said something like very specific. He was just like, oh my gosh. He goes, I get no kick out of shooting no girls.
Yeah.
And it was all for kicks. It was all just to get his rocks off.
And it felt like in some of the interviews that he was kind of judging men who decided to murder women in any other way. Because to him, that was too grotesque. Like, oh my God, you're stabbing people, you're shooting them, like grotesque. Wow, y'all, it be early when we be recording. Don't mind me. If you know me in real life, you know I smart.
I smart. Be smart.
But I just thought it was funny how he's the most infamous serial killer we have in the States, or prolific, I should say. But he judges other serial killers.
Maybe that's why he's not as popular. He's just judging them all. They're like kicking you out of the club.
Okay.
Oh, man.
So now in 1982 in Pascagoula, Mississippi, shout out Mississippi, crooked letter I, my family of Mississippi. The police arrested him because they felt he was responsible for the murder of 22-year-old Melinda Rose Laprie, who had gone missing in September of that year. A grand jury declined to indict him for her murder, but while he was under investigation, he was extradited to Florida and tried for the murder of 26-year-old Patricia Ann Mount. Now, Patricia's new body was found in September of 1982, and then hair fibers and witness testimonies linked him to the killing. Get this, y'all. This man goes on trial and is found not guilty due to a mistrust of witness testimonies. In January of 1984, they literally had him for the murder of 2 women, and they let him go.
Lack of hard evidence, issues with witnesses, and Little's ways of killing, right? Left little to no evidence. Of course, when DNA evidence started coming out, that's ultimately how he would get caught. But back then, when they didn't have that, they didn't really have much to go off of. There was no blood. There was no nothing.
Could you imagine being a cop who, like, in that courtroom knew this was your guy, and you're just like, you gotta be shitting me.
And having to just, like, let this dude go to ultimately kill more people.
A lot more.
Such bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then he moved to California after jail because, you know, he cocky now. He like, ooh. He stayed really close to the vicinity of San Diego. Great city, by the way. And then in 1984, he was arrested for kidnapping, beating, and strangling 22-year-old Lori Barros. Did I say her name right?
Lori Barros. Yeah, that's the woman that survived.
That you talked about. Yep. So I'm just giving you guys a timeline here. So after he got released and all charges were dropped after he actually killed these other 2 women, that's when he ended up trying to kill Lori, who thankfully, as Christina described, already survived. Now, 1 month later, he was found by police in the backseat of his car with an unconscious woman, also beaten and strangled in the same area that he had just tried to kill Lori in. 1 month later.
The same place.
Same place.
And he bragged about that a lot, too.
This man's happy.
Going back to the same cities to, quote unquote, pluck me another grape. What other grapes can I find?
Yeah, the way talk about on the vine, and I was just like,
yeah,
oh,
it's like, oh, what other can I get off the vine here?
Give me 5 minutes with that guy. I'm trying, and he practiced his boxing, and like, there's even one interview with Julian. She's talking about how he like punched like within like an inch of her face, like he started like shadow boxing and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I would have had a reflex and knocked his ass out. So he actually served 2.5 years in prison for both of those crimes, right? And then after his release in February of 1987, he moved to LA and committed at least 10 more murders.
Yeah, he claims to have killed about 7 people that year. Who knows, right? He killed one of the victims in this year was Carol Alford, whose body was dumped in an alleyway. Just a few years later, in 1989, he would murder Audrey Nelson and Guadalupe Apodaca. So Carol, Audrey, and Guadalupe are the victims who he would eventually get tried for.
Yep.
So this is kind of the decline of his murdering career, thankfully. In 1991, he's caught trying to steal some cigarettes in Lorraine. So I guess he's back in Lorraine. And
he traveled a lot.
Was charged with aggravated robbery. He pleads guilty and ends up being sentenced to 2 years in prison. Not sure. There's lots of gaps in time here. So it's kind of like this year, 3 years later, this happens. Another 3 years later, this happens. But he's just doing his thing.
Keep in mind, again, he's been arrested almost 100 times. Yeah. So if it seems like the story is all over the place, that's because it is.
He's all over the place, literally all over the country, doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
It's chaotic. So 2005, Little claims that his final victim was named Nancy, who was strangled in Mississippi. Investigators believe that this could have been Nancy Carol Stevens, whose body was found off of a road in August of that year. And in 2007, he's arrested for possession of cocaine, but failed to attend a court-ordered rehabilitation program, and a warrant is then issued for his arrest. He would leave bodies in lots of secluded places like the Everglades, vegetated areas, roll them down a hill.
Pig farm.
Yup. He bragged about leaving someone off at a pig farm and how like the rats got to her. So by the time she was found, like her face was eaten off.
They ate all their skin. Yeah.
Yeah. So no one could really like identify her, and only really like he knew. So in 2012, a case was finally able to be pinned onto him due to DNA evidence. Yay. He was arrested in a homeless shelter in Kentucky for that drug charge back in, what was it, like 2007, and he was extradited to LA. And it was during this arrest that his DNA was found to be matched to many crime scenes throughout the 80s. And officials from Mississippi and Los Angeles teamed together to find that the MO matched.
Now, keep in mind, again, he got arrested for narcotics. And that's when they were like, wait a minute. Oh, my God, this guy's a murderer. He's a serial killer.
Oh, my God.
We thought we was busting this guy full of drugs. Like, what?
And, like, they got his DNA, right? Like, someone decided to work that day. They're like, let's get that DNA.
Exactly.
Whatever. Yeah.
So he then got extradited to LA, charged on January 7, 2013. So in September 25th, 2014 to be exact, he was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Now, get this, y'all. He maintained his innocence. While he's in jail, he like, I didn't do it. I'm innocent.
Even during his sentencing, he screamed, I didn't do it.
Sir.
Like, really, dude?
Sir.
Really?
This was until November 15, 2018. So for those of you who are listening and can do math, we are in 2022. This is a very recent crime. Or I shouldn't say crime because he committed a lot of his crimes in the 80s. Was it the 80s?
This happened very recently.
It happened very
just
recently.
Yeah.
You killed all these women. I mean, child. for many, many years, and you just recently decide, you know what? I'm gonna be honest. I did it, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
So he pretty much lived his entire life lying. Even when he was in jail, he lived his life as a free man. He didn't get caught until late. And then he would go on for the entire month of November. He would confess to murder after murder. And he would only talk if he got it in writing that they would not pursue the death penalty.
Like, really? At that point, who cares?
Exactly.
Who cares? And he was already sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences. So every time he got charged for another murder that he had confessed to, they just tacked on another life sentence. Like, that's not doing anything.
Exactly.
That's not doing anything for anybody. I mean, I get it that they want his confessions. They can close a lot of cases, but
family gets closure. Yeah. Yeah, the guy was, I think that was just his final way of trying to manipulate things. He's like, I want this in
he
writing.
loved being in control.
Oh, God. Yeah, absolutely. Now, the one thing that I will say that it come good, I won't say good.
That come good.
Oh, my God. We're going to make that another podcast. The one good thing that came from this, why do you do this to me, Christina?
What?
It's the Lord's Day. Was that his confession for one of the confessions that he made, Jesus, Christina, in Florida, helped to clear a man who was wrongfully convicted. That's what I was trying to get out.
Oh, yeah, that's
Couldn't
nice.
get that out. Yeah. So
yeah.
when he confessed, he actually was able to clear a man who was wrongfully convicted, who did not murder this poor woman.
Yeah, and he would actually start sketching his victims, and he had a crazy, like, almost a photographic memory. Like, he remembered things on these women's faces from years and years ago, and you look at some of these pictures and it's like, they're done well. I hate giving this person a compliment, but like, they're done well. And a lot of the pictures, even he drew the blood pooling in their eyes. You can see like the little spots in their eyes from like when you're dying from strangulation. So I don't know, that was apparently, I'm thinking that's where he made his like final image in his mind of them like dying.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what he based it off of. And a lot of these sketches, when I was looking at them, like, they look so sad.
Yeah.
They look so sad.
He literally, he targeted women who already seemed like they were kind of down and out and sad, and they were easy victims to target.
Some of them had a death wish already. Sure.
Yeah. And like Christina said, like, and I mentioned earlier too, he had a photographic memory, but they would always talk about how he lacked the ability to accurately judge time and distance. And so sometimes it was proven that he was off by more than 10 years and 40 miles. But he could tell you everything about this woman, how she looked, what she was wearing, smelled. But this man was a very, very sick, even what they ate, like we talked about earlier with the carrots and the coffee. But he would be off by a few years and miles. So it took them a long time sometimes to
10
find
years
these.
and 40 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very much a mess. His mind was remembering things that he wanted to remember, not necessarily facts that would have been useful for finding these people. Just he was reliving a lot of this stuff in his head over and over. Yeah. And he had those details about the way they looked, about that evening, about how their throat looked. He was not remembering times and places at all.
One woman even, they were like, we never shared with anyone that she was wearing a wig. And he knew before they even shared with him, like, yeah, she had a wig on. I took it off and threw it out the window. And they were like, how the hell? So they would even try to beg him and like present him with different cases and women, and like, oh, is he gonna take credit for this? We know he didn't kill her. He was locked up at this time. Will he say it? And he never took ownership of anyone that he did not kill. He's like, oh yeah, I know this one. Yeah. I was gonna kill her, but I didn't kill her. That wasn't me.
I actually went back to that town to try and find her, but she was gone by that time. Yep. Jeez, this woman didn't stand a chance.
Oh,
what in the hell? I can't.
He was a piece of poopy. So the FBI would confirm his involvement in at least 60 of the 93 murders he claimed. He claimed to have killed 93 women.
But he said he stopped counting at 84.
And they, to this day, have confirmed 60.
Yeah.
So that is the largest number of confirmed victims by any serial killer in the United States.
And thankfully, in the year 2020, he actually died in prison from health issues at an LA hospital. He had diabetes and heart problems, and who knows what else. And then he had also confessed to killing, I just thought about this, someone named Marianne, who was a transgender person. And he had said he alluded to the fact that he might have killed more transgender victims. So he's suspected of killing up to 3 transgender victims.
So Samuel Little, after 700 hours of interviews,
Yeah.
and hundreds of hundreds and many drawings, he finally confessed and he died 2020 at the age of 80. Lived a full freaking life.
Very.
Yeah.
Full in all the ways that you don't think of a life of being full. But he definitely just did what he wanted. Ever since he was a kid, he just was just doing what he wanted. Like, there was no deciphering. Like, he knew what was right and what was wrong, but he was just like, I'm gonna go out there and I'm just gonna get what I want. And he just did that ever since he was little. Ever since he was a kid.
So some of his drawings, of course, went on to help solve cold cases, but there are still some women who are left unidentified, and we don't know if they have family or if the family is looking for them, if it's too much for them to look at the picture, so they don't even want to know if their family member died. Because I don't know if I would necessarily look into it. Like, if someone went missing and they're like, hey, this guy just released all these creepy drawings, do you want to go through hours of them and see if maybe you recognize? I don't want to do it. Nope. We haven't seen her in 20 years. I think we're just going to assume the worst.
I would.
See, I've never been a person that requires closure, though. That's why people hate breaking up with me.
That's fun.
I don't provide closure because I don't require
it.
it.
Like a breakup, I don't think I would necessarily want closure. But if it came to someone that like had died, you know, I think I would want to know exactly what happened to them, and I don't know why, but I think I would want to at least know what happened, how they died, and I don't know why.
That's a good question. I mean, out there, do you guys think that you would require closure? I mean, say it's been 20 years, so clearly, I mean, most likely your loved one is gone. Would you want to know for sure if they were the victim of this serial killer? Christina said, yeah. I said, hell no. I want to remember TT the way I remember her. I just want to think that she escaped to an island and she's out there living with a fine ass cabana boy.
Oh. I mean, yeah, I think for me, I'd just confront it head on. And you know, I think probably after learning the details, I'd be like, all right, I know that this happened, but then I would probably make up some type of a story like that. Oh, my auntie, right. I wouldn't go tell everyone, but I'd be like, oh yeah, she moved to what's an island, Bahamas? I don't know. We don't know vacation spots. Okay,
we got to get you to travel more.
Vacations. So, if
we do this Blood Sisters Feet podcast, we can.
Ooh, with our feet up on the table while we're talking.
They will pay money. Okay. Okay, sorry, y'all.
Can we put that on OnlyFans?
Hell yeah. Get some bloody feet. So that is the story of Samuel Little. And we talked about it a little earlier when we first started, because I just find it so weird that he's not the first name mentioned when we talk about famous U.S. serial killers. He's down the line.
He is the most prolific serial killer, and he's got more kills than like Ted Bundy, the Zodiac killer
combined,
and Dahmer combined. And like I said, I think the media is just so fickle, right? They focus on the sexy things.
Right. And like, I don't want to, I think it's a coincidence that he's black, but I mean, it is worth mentioning that he is the only one in this group that is black. I think it is a coincidence though, but it's still just an interesting fact to talk about.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Because I don't think black serial killers are less sexy for the media,
of course,
but it could be the way, like you said, like he found a method that worked. It wasn't it wasn't like gross, and he just stuck with it.
And the fact that he was black and managed to dodge the police so many times.
Ooh, Oh, I'm
Like,
sorry, I hit you
how?
aggressive.
No, you're fine.
I was like, bitch, yes.
Like, how? Was he just that clever, or
Yeah, maybe it was a
Wow.
blow to their ego because I mean, at that time, of
That's
course, they're
true.
just like, we're smarter than you brown people.
Sure.
So the fact that he was able to evade them for so long, that might be wow.
Just don't want to own up to it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So I mean, let us know in the comments. Did you know about Samuel Little? Why do you think he's not listed in like America's top serial killers? He's killed more than all of these guys.
Yeah, why is he not the first
The
person
first
you think of when
name.
you think of a serial killer?
Right.
I mean, he's had an interesting ass life that could easily be made into a Netflix series,
Exactly.
a movie.
Yeah.
And it would be very interesting.
Okay.
Like
even us, we're in season 2, going towards the end of season 2, and this is our first time talking about Samuel Little. He killed
Right,
the most
right.
people. He's
Yeah.
not the first name that people think of. And this
Yeah.
man was a disturbing, sick individual who needs the highlight for being as disgusting as he is. He
Right.
was, thankfully. He's gone now.
At the same time, should we be giving any serial killers any type of
Now that he's dead, yes. I don't think when they're alive we should, because
Okay.
a lot of them want that fame and
They
that
love
attention.
that.
Yeah. So I think we should ignore them while they're alive.
Okay,
That will
that's
drive
fair.
them crazy when they're in jail. Like, nobody's talking about me. No one, what's happening? We don't care. And then when they die, be like, all right, let's show some honor to the victims. This
Right.
man was fucked up.
Yeah, like even while they're alive, I can see showing honor to the victims, but just not mentioning their name. They want their name out there. They want to be
Yeah.
known as doing something big, right? They don't know how to do something big that would be actually like useful.
Right.
You know.
They don't want to contribute to society in any way.
Right.
All right, guys. Well, that is Blood Sisters for today.
Yay.
I promise I'm going to find a better way to end the episode. Because I feel like I just be like,
we'll find
and
a
that's
flow.
us. Bye, heifers.
Yeah, I like bye heifers.
Perfect. We're going to do that. Thanks for listening, y'all. Bye, heifers.
Bye,
that was fun.
I agree.